Hello crafty friends, I'm Lean from Studio Kato and I'm so happy to be back with another video and so happy that you're joining me. Today I am focusing on some critter cards. I haven't made one in a while, I feel. I used to make them a lot more, but I'm back to it now with this Hello Bluebird stamp set. This is called Carried Away, and I am actually making two very different cards with this one stamp set. And it's all about the backgrounds. So I am going to stamp some of these critters out. There are a lot of images in these Hello Bluebird stamp sets. They are quite large and they definitely fill up the sheet. So I am stamping 3 critters and I am also stamping some not balloons, these are clouds. I'm also stamping some clouds. I'm going to be stamping them with Memento Tuxedo Black ink onto Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock. I will leave the stamps in my MISTI and stamp them again later once I'm done coloring, but I actually cut that part out of the video because I do it every single time. I'm going to be coloring these with alcohol markers, and that is why I am stamping twice. I love working with alcohol markers. You get really vibrant colors with alcohol markers, a lot more pigmented than you get from watercolors. So I really love working with alcohol markers and I thoroughly enjoy these Ohuhu markers ever since I got them. I've been crazy about them. They are really fun to work with. They are pretty good quality for the price you get. They are amazing. So I really love them. But I also love an embossed outline, and it happens to be that you can't use alcohol markers once you have already embossed your image. Embossing powder and alcohol markers don't mix because something in the alcohol markers, the solution in the markers, rubs away the embossing powder and it kind of melts into the nib. So it's not good for your markers and it's going to rub away the embossing powder anyway. So there's no use in coloring with your alcohol markers after you've embossed your outline. So what I do instead is I stamp my images once with alcohol marker friendly ink. I then leave the stamps in my MISTI while I color everything. I don't cut anything out, obviously. I keep everything on the sheet. And then I put the sheet back in my MISTI, stamp everything again with VersaFine Onyx Black, and then I emboss. And this gives me the best of both worlds, some embossed outline and some alcohol marker coloring. Now the coloring itself is really simple. I always work from my darkest color to my lightest color because that way I don't darken up my lights too much. If you start from your lightest shade, you tend to go over it more times than if you do it the other way around. And in the end, your lightest shade looks a lot darker than when you first started. And I like to get a very nice contrast between the darks and the lights on my card. Now for my first card, I am using an embossed background and I'm going to make a very abstract scene on this, a very small scene. I've embossed some cardstock, some white cardstock with the Optical Arches embossing folder by Spellbinders. Spellbinders has some amazing embossing folders. And then I am masking off just a little strip on my card. I'm using the grid of my grid mat to line everything up so I know these masking tapes are on straight. And once that's done, I transfer it to my blending mat. This is just a sheet of white cardstock that I laminated. I highly recommend doing that for blending. It's very easy, very cheap, and you can make as many as you want. Then I'm just blending on a few inks here. I am using, I think the purple ink is the only one I'm using from Pink Fresh Studio, and the other ones are all Concord 9th inks. And I love this color combination. I'm very happy with how it turned out. So don't be afraid to mix your ink brands. You can get some really fun color combos that way because ink lines are always just as limited as they come. Pink Fresh Studio has they have a pretty extensive ink line by now, but I think the Concord 9th inks is a really nice set to add to that. They have really unique colors. Now by just blending on that little strip, I have created a sky because I will add some clouds to this as well. And it's not going to take over my entire card front. I think the arches, the optical arches from the embossing folder look a little bit like a rainbow maybe. So it gives the illusion that you have created a extensive scene without actually doing so. A little bit of ink blending and add your elements on top. I like to go outside of the bounds of my scene. That adds a little bit more depth and movement to my card, I find. I just really like the way it looks, and I do it every single time I have some sort of frame. Just go a little bit outside it, and it just gives it a little bit of an extra fun look. I'm adding a sentiment to this. I mass-produced these when I first got the set, and I haven't touched the stamp since. This is from the stamp market. I forgot what it was called, but it was just on the screen. I'm finishing this off with a couple of embellishments, and that is going to be done for this card. So this is a fairly clean and simple scene card. So that's one way of using this stamp. Now, the other way is to create a full background. This background is actually left over from a Halloween card I made a while ago. I will link that video in the description below. But all I did was add some Lindy's Gang Magicals to some watercolor cardstock, and I used the clouds from this partly cloudy die from Hello Bluebird on another card. But I still have the outline and all of those little insert pieces saved because I knew I could get another card out of it. I'm gluing that straight onto a white note card, and once I'm happy with that, I can fill in all of the pieces that we're missing, and I am also going to fill up the clouds. You don't have to do this, but I do like a silver cloud, so I am going to cut this once again out of silver cardstock, silver glitter cardstock, and add those clouds in. This is really easy to do. These are very large pieces to do some inlay, but I love that difference in texture from the watercolor cardstock to the glitter cardstock. It's just something a little different. I think liquid adhesive is the best option for anything like this. I prefer liquid adhesive for almost anything anyway, but you can also use some double-sided adhesive or a tape runner. That would work too. It's just that you can't wiggle your pieces around anymore with those options. Liquid adhesive is a little bit more forgiving. And then the most challenging part comes in, and that is how to arrange these critters on the scene. I really wanted them to be on the left side because that was a nice contrast to the other card I made, but it was a little bit tricky to arrange them. I ended up with this, and I'm just adhering them with some foam tape to my card. I actually doubled up my foam tape for this. I do this a lot, and then it's easier to cut up because you have release paper on both sides, so it doesn't stick to your scissors. I actually put out another video this week all about die cut tips, but it also has a foam tape tip in it. I will link that below, and it's really fun to do if you don't want to use foam squares anymore. I find them a little bit too fiddly for me, so I've just resorted to foam tape all the way. For my embellishments, I die cut some tiny stars. This is a die set from Action, which is some sort of dollar store variant here in Europe. So you probably can get these online, but yeah, I just had these lying around. Any small star dies will do. So these are the finished cards, both very different. So you can create a very minimal scene with a strip of ink blending. I do this quite often. You don't have to make it vertical. You can do it horizontal as well, or diagonal. I think I've made cards with all of those strips, and I really like them. It's a really fun design trick to learn. A background die is actually another quick way to make a full-on scene for your card, but they can get quite expensive, so sometimes ink blending is your best option. I hope you like these cards, and I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. You can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos, and I am putting out a bunch right now because I'm still catching up on that time I took off. You'll also want to keep an eye on my Instagram, especially for the month of December. I have some very exciting things planned, so I'll leave that link below, and I hope you follow me there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.